Watch this 8-second video.
This is an impossible task. There is no way I can do this. Like, no, thank you.
Probably sounds like words we've used before, right? Nothing nefarious, right? Right? Well, let me ask you something. What are those words creating? Because that right there isn't a sentence, it's direction. It's direction to the mind and the body. Your words are not just descriptions, they're instructions, how your life will flow. If you're new here, I'm Rozanne. Welcome. And in the last episode, we talked about how words create. Your brain is listening and your body is responding. And the words that we put out there, they have a frequency and they are magnetizing to us the things that come into our life. 2 episodes ago, we talked about words of life and words of deterioration, and those are opposite ends of the spectrum. But what we don't realize is that smack dab in the middle is a group of words that we use every single day that we don't understand could be holding us back and creating a life as if we had that heavy anchors that we're trying to pull forward. Why are we not able to move forward? What if the simple everyday words that we are using are actually blocking our ability to press forward faster? So today I'm unveiling what those words are, and you'll be surprised about the super simple turnaround that we can utilize where you can describe the same thing in a different way, yet give direction to the brain and the body that moves us forward and pulls up those anchors. So you're ready to have some fun today because you're going to practice some skills. You're going to see some videos of others using the skill. And I promise you, if you take to heart these simple word choices, you will start to see the world in a very different way. So want to try? Game on. Here we go. I have a friend who has one of the most optimistic views of life. It's not that she just uses positive words in her life. It's that she's eliminated 2 types of words: obligation words and limitation words. And when I asked her why, she said something that really struck me. She said, we're so lucky to live in a place of freedom and be able to create and live our dreams. But do we realize that we have a choice in even the little things? How we describe our lives shows our view of being free or our view of being constrained. By using words of choice, we can literally level up our life. Okay, so let me give you an example. An example would be, I have to go to bed. No, I get to go to bed. And the fact that I get to go to bed means I have a bed. And the fact that I wake up means that I'm alive. Instead of I have to go to work, I get to go to work. And that means I have a job. Instead of I have to go to the grocery store, no, I choose to go to the grocery store so that I can fill my home with these nutritious foods for my family. And that means that I get to prepare meals at home and shows that I live where I can get food on a daily basis. So replacing have to in our life awakens us to an empowerment of what we get to choose to do. So let's walk into these 2 types of words that she eliminated. The first one, obligation words. When those are eliminated, it almost feels like this energetic shackle has been released from us. Have you heard the following phrase, don't should all over yourself? Well, these obligation words suggest that we don't have any freedom of choice in our lives and even feels heavy. So if we were to put that word on a scale, it would have weight to it. So here's a few examples of obligation words. And listen to see if you use any of these a lot. Have to, need to, forced to, must, should, supposed to, ought. Now, these words feel heavy because they remove all choice. And when someone feels forced, there's like resistance and there's emotion there. And where there's emotion, there's strong neural wiring. Now take a minute and think about how you utilize those have to, supposed to. The truth is that obligation can be a choice for us. The feeling of should indicates that, well, we want the end result, but there's like this conflict in feeling. When we rephrase things we want to, or we get to, or we choose to, we turn it into something that's good for us. Can you feel the difference here? So try this. What are some things that you get to do or choose to do? For example, I get to go to school. That means that I live in a country of freedom. So think about it. What is something that you get to do? I get to what? Now, here's another one. I choose to do what? Now, here's another one. I want to what? Now, these are things that you typically say, I have to, or I'm being forced to. Like, I have to clean my home. No, I get to clean my home and I'm grateful that I have a home. Now, how does that make you feel when you're all of a sudden grateful for a home that you get to clean? The difference is it is directing our mind and our body to see opportunity and the positivity in things and not the struggle of obligation. It opens our mind to possibilities and freedom and choice that obligation words don't give us. Now let's step into limitation words. Bear in mind, I do know there's some things that we may not be able to do, but there are words that we use against ourselves that imply an incapability or a limitation to what we can and can't do. Truth be known, there's probably nothing we can't do if we have a desire to put in the time and the effort to do it. And if we've been given a gift or gifted a skill that comes naturally, when there's a will, there's a way, right? Many times we impose this cap or this ceiling on us to limit ourselves by the words we use. So here's a couple examples of limitation words. I can't. It won't happen. Not good enough. Impossible. Never. Now, these words feel heavy. Why? Because they remove choice, they close doors. The brain stops looking for possibilities or choices. So, when have you used limitation words, and how can we change that? Let's step for a minute into that word that you heard. Never use never, but how many of us use it all the time? And when we speak words, we have to think, what is that creating? What is that creating? I have a friend that would always say, I can never lose weight. Now, remember, the subconscious has a job, and that's to prove us right and to keep us safe, right? It's all the information, all the data that's been recorded from everything we've seen, heard, taste, touch, smelled, and imagined all of our life. When the mind and the body hear, I can never lose weight, the mind and the body is going like, whoa, all hands on deck. You heard that she said that she can never lose weight. So do what you can to make sure that she doesn't lose weight. Did you get that? It's that self-fulfilling prophecy because the mind and the body are listening. And with our words, we're writing the direction for our future because the subconscious is just taking marching orders. We're the boss of our mind and a body, and they are listening. Now listen to some of these nevers. I never show up on time. What is that creating? I never get all my work done for the day. What is that creating? I never get invited to go places. What is that creating? So when we see what that is creating, what's a different way that we could say it? In the course adventure called Level Up that I teach to adults and teens, we learn a language called Rephraseology. Now, some of you probably speak a different language, a bilanguage, trilanguage. And when we're learning a new language, sometimes it could be a little bit awkward or it takes a little bit of time to catch on. But once we catch on, ooh, it's like the brain opens up to embracing what it's learning. So how can we articulate what we're going through, but in a way that opens doors and possibility instead of closing doors of limitation or obligation? Words of choice open doors. So let's now expand what words of choice look like. Here's some of the words of choice. Choose to, decide to, I get to, I'm desiring to, I'm grateful to, I'm able to, I'm improving, I'm practicing, I'm becoming, I'm drawn to. Now, honestly, if I could have you write them on your fingers and tote them around with you all day long, it makes replacing things with words of choice so much easier. So think about it. Are you going to write it on a notebook? Are you going to put it on post-it notes? Are you going to write it on your fingers? It kind of works. So let's use some of these. Let's start out with either an obligation word or a limitation word. Like, I'll never be able to go to college at Harvard. Okay, how would you rephrase that? Instead of saying, I'll never be able to go to Harvard, You could say, I really don't desire to go to Harvard. That's taking ownership, right? Or I'd love to go to Harvard, but I haven't put in the time and effort to see if it's a reality. Ownership again. Do you feel the difference? Never shuts the door. I don't desire to go, shows ownership, and there's accountability in taking the time to see whether it's a reality. Here's another one. I can't trust anyone. What is that creating? And how could you change that? I'm practicing discerning who I can rely on. Okay, let's go back to that one. I can't ever lose weight. What is that creating? We talked about that. But we can change that, rephrase that to, I am releasing unwanted weight all the time. Like you see how we're creating possibilities, we're opening the doors for the brain. Our brain is on training wheels all the time, and anything we say and think, it's literally giving orders to the subconscious. And the subconscious wants to fulfill what we're saying, not necessarily to make us happy. It's just taking the orders. What about this one? I'm too dumb to understand this class. What is that creating? Instead, we could say, I'm improving my understanding every day. Learning to speak a language is like kind of like wearing your shoes on the wrong foot for a while. And then we step into rephrasing things because we know that words we say are creating. And what do we want to create? Wait, do I need to watch all the words I say? Well, only if you want to open doors and create new possibilities. By the way, those of you on the mailing list, I've created an expanded list of words of choice. And that's going out in the email this week, which is a valuable way for us to start rephrasing the way we say things. And if you'd like to get tools on a weekly basis, you can just go to nobrainers.com or levelupteam.com and just take the brain quiz. You'll be added to the email tools that I send out every single week. Okay, let's watch 4 examples of what it means to rephrase.
This is an impossible task. There is no way I can do this. Like, no thank you.
What is that creating? Impossible task. Mind has shut down. So how could you rephrase this differently? Listen to this.
This task may seem impossible, but I can accomplish it if I break it down into smaller steps.
Now, notice how she said, this may seem impossible, but then she gave her brain options. Well, I can break this down and go forward. Can you feel the difference? Okay, here's another one.
She is driving me crazy.
What is that creating? Imagine every time you see her, what do you think in your mind? Oh my goodness. So how can you rephrase that? What would you do? Stop the video and think, how would you rephrase? Okay, this is how she rephrased it.
She is teaching me a lot of patience.
Did you see that twist, that spin? And how does the brain now accept that? Instead of going crazy, it's like, okay, I'm learning. What am I learning here? Here's the next one.
I never have enough time.
How many of us have said that before, right? I never have enough time. What is that creating though? In your day, if you never have enough time, that is creating a deficit of time. So how would you rephrase that? Because we all have a lot of things that we need to do. And I know the never word is one that we all use. So how can we replace it? Here's her response.
There is plenty of time for everything that is important to me.
Now, what does that say to the brain? Okay, the important things are the ones that we're getting done. But then it's also taking away the exasperation of that exhaustive list is not getting done, right? But the important ones are. Ooh, are you getting the feel of the mastery of this? Here's another one.
I feel so rejected by my friends. I feel like nobody wants to be around me.
Okay. You can almost feel how that feels. How many of us have been in that situation before where we felt rejected or we've listened to our children feel that way? So when we're in that state of, I feel so rejected, what is that creating? It's a spiral down of emotions, right? So how can we rephrase that? Now, I want you to listen to the response because this is actually this teenager's response. And I was totally blown away how she rephrased this. Listen in.
I've noticed that my friends have been a little distant, so maybe I'll check in with them and see that if they're doing okay.
Do you just love that? She took the emphasis off of I'm feeling this way to I wonder what they are feeling. That is absolutely leveling up at the nth degree when we take it away from us and think of empathetically towards someone else. Now, I've just given you a couple of these. And of course, in the course I teach, I've got oodles of them for you to learn from. But in all of these, it's the same scenario. It's just a different perspective, and a perspective that opens up possibilities. And honestly, when we start to speak differently, when we start to choose our words, when we use words of choice, when we use words of ownership, we start to see the world differently. And things that we see one way, we now open up the brain and train the brain to be able to see much more and see other things. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, okay, I see it, but I need help catching this in real time, I actually create a couple tools for this. I have a little booklet called The Power of Thoughts and Words. And literally, this walks you through step by step, understanding the mind and the body and how to step into rephrasing the words that you say. And a really fun game called Rephraseology. It literally is the game of watch your words. This is something you can practice with your friends, with your family. In fact, it's family friendly, where younger kids play from a yellow side of a card and older ones from the blue side of the card. Because this is a skill, the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. So if this would be helpful to you, you can go to nobrainers.com or levelupteam.com, go into the shop, and you'll find both of those in there. I hope you understood in this brief amount of time how powerful this is. When we can release ourselves from obligation and limitation words, we literally start shaking free those anchors that are snagged on the bottom of the lake. And we open our brain to new possibilities, to be able to look at things differently. So this week, just notice, where are you? Are you closing doors? Are you creating resistance? And what do you want to create instead? Because what you say is what you are creating. And when we use those words of choice, that's when we start to level up. Hit that subscribe button and pass it on to family and friends so that you can learn together. You know, we are creators and we create the life we live. So have fun with the Rephraseology. And next week, I have another piece to this. Don't miss out. Tally ho, my friends. See you then.